It was Rebecca's 45th birthday. I reached her house early, holding the cake I had ordered from her favorite bakery. It cost me a lot, but for my only daughter, money never mattered. I stood at the door with a hopeful smile, expecting the same excitement she used to show when she was little. But when she opened the door, there was no joy on her face. Just irritation. "Oh, it's you," she muttered coldly, barely looking at me. "Happy birthday, my precious," I said softly, lifting the cake toward her. "It's your favorite, chocolate and strawberries, just like you loved as a child." She let out a long, tired sigh, as if my presence itself was exhausting. "Mom, we need to talk," she said without warmth and stepped aside, letting me enter without even thanking me. We sat in her spacious living room, the same beautiful house I had paid for after her marriage to David. I had given my entire savings for it. $50,000, earned through decades of double shifts as a nurse, night after night, year after year. Rebecca folded her arms and spoke in the distant tone she had developed over time. "I'd been thinking about my birthday, about gifts, and about what I truly want this year." My face brightened with hope. "Tell me, sweetheart. Anything, travel, jewelry, a car, you name it." She looked straight at me. What I saw in her eyes made my blood run cold. There was no love there. Only bitterness. "The one thing I really want," she said slowly, almost enjoying each word, "is for you to die." Everything inside me shattered. My heart felt like it had stopped beating. The room spun. What did you say?" I whispered, tears burning my eyes. "You heard me," she replied flatly. "I'm tired of you. Your calls. Your surprise visits. You're always around. My life would be so peaceful if you just disappeared." My hand started shaking uncontrollably. 72 years of life. 45 years of being her mother. And never, not even in my worst nightmare, had I imagined hearing such words from her lips. "Rebecca," I cried. "I am your mother. I gave you my whole life." She stood up sharply. "Exactly. And that's the problem. You've suffocated me with it. I can't breathe. I want freedom. I want my life without your emotions, without your needs." The cake was still in my hands. The candles had started to soften and bend from the heat. All the dreams I had for this day, hugs, laughter, family dinner, disappeared in seconds. "But I only want to be close to you," I whispered. "You're all I have." "And that's why I feel trapped," she replied coldly. "Go find a life of your own and leave me alone." My legs felt weak as I stood up, holding the cake like a cruel joke. "I can't believe you're saying this after everything I've done," I murmured. She laughed bitterly. "Everything you did was for yourself, Mom. So you could feel important. So you could control me. I'm not a child anymore." I walked toward the door, each step feeling heavier than the last. At the doorway, I turned back one final time, hoping, praying, to see regret in her eyes. But there was only impatience. She wanted me gone so she could celebrate without me. "Happy birthday, Rebecca," I whispered. And I walked out. That day, I didn't know it would be the last time I would ever leave her house as the same woman who had given everything for her child. Something inside me had changed forever. I reached my small apartment with shaking legs and a shattered heart. The expensive cake went straight into the trash. The melted candles looked like my own tears, silent and unstoppable. I collapsed on my old sofa, the same sofa where I once fed Rebecca as a baby, told her bedtime stories, and cried happy tears every time she called me Mom. How did it come to this? How could the child I carried for 9 months wish death upon me so easily? My mind replayed my entire life with her. When she was 3 and caught pneumonia, I worked triple shifts to afford her medicine. The insurance didn't cover it. I sold my late mother's jewelry to save her. When she was 16 and dreamed of wearing a pink prom dress, I worked every weekend for 4 months to buy it. She hugged me that night and said, "You're the best mom in the world." When she kept changing her college major, I paid every tuition bill without complaint, tens of thousands of dollars. I even took a second mortgage on my house. When she married David, I paid for the entire wedding so she could feel like a queen for one day. I signed check after check without hesitation. And then, there was the house. That very house, the one where she had just humiliated me, loomed in my mind. When Rebecca and David decided to buy their first home, I hadn't hesitated for a second. "Don't worry about the down payment," I told them. "I'll take care of it." It was $150,000 from my life savings, the money I had been putting aside for my own retirement. But that was just the beginning. When the twins arrived 5 years ago, I became their unpaid babysitter. Every night Rebecca wanted to go out with David, and every time they had plans and needed someone to watch the kids, there I was, never asking for a single cent, always happy to help my daughter live the life she'd dreamed of. When David lost his job last year, who covered the mortgage for 8 months? Me. $16,000 taken from my pension, money that meant weeks of eating rice and beans just to stretch my income. And when the twins needed braces? Another $4,000 I paid without hesitation. "Don't worry," I reassured them, seeing their worried faces. "That's what grandparents are for." I stood up from the sofa and went to my desk, where I kept all the receipts, every proof of the money I had spent on my daughter and her family. Boxes upon boxes of documents. Not out of mistrust, but out of pride. Pride in what I had been able to give them. I started calculating everything. Raising Rebecca from birth until she was independent, approximately $200,000. College, $42,000. The wedding, $35,000. The down payment on the house, $150,000. Mortgage payments while David was unemployed, $16,000. The twins' braces, $4,000. Birthday and Christmas gifts over the years, at least $10,000 more. The total? Devastating. Over $460,000, almost $500,000 invested in my daughter's happiness. And for what? To hear that her greatest wish was for me to die. Tears fell onto the papers as I continued to add and subtract. If I had invested that money instead, with compound interest, I would now have more than $600,000. I could be living comfortably, traveling the world, enjoying a secure retirement, not counting pennies in this tiny apartment. But no, I had chosen love. I had believed every dollar spent on my daughter was worth it, that every sacrifice would be repaid in her love and care in my old age. How foolish I had been. I picked up the phone and dialed Rebecca's number. I needed to hear her voice one more time, to confirm that she had truly said those words. "What do you want now, Mom?" she answered, irritation dripping from her voice after the 5th ring. "Rebecca, I need to know, did you really mean what you said to me today?" My voice trembled. "Of course I meant it," she replied, completely unbothered. "Mom, it's time for you to understand that I need space. Your obsession with me isn't healthy." "Obsession?" I echoed, incredulous. "You call a mother's love obsession?" "Yes, exactly that," she said. "And I hope that after today, you finally get the message. Respect my boundaries and let me live my life." I hung up without a word of farewell. There was no misunderstanding. My daughter genuinely believed my love was a burden, that my presence in her life was a problem she had to solve. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every beautiful moment we'd shared, every hug, every "I love you, Mom" that had come from her lips. Had it all been a lie? Or had I raised a daughter so selfish that she couldn't see beyond her own desires? At 3 a.m., something shifted inside me. Sadness transformed into something else, anger, indignation, and the clear understanding that I had been used, manipulated, and discarded like a disposable tissue. My daughter wanted me gone. Well, maybe it was time to give her exactly what she asked for. The next morning, I woke with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. Sadness had been replaced by determination. If my daughter wanted me out of her life, I would leave, but not in the way she expected. I put on my best clothes, stepping out with a purpose. First stop, the bank, where I had a joint account with Rebecca for her home's emergency expenses. The account I had opened with $20,000 for any unforeseen events. "Good morning, Mrs. Johnson," greeted the manager, Mr. Martinez, who had known me for years. "How can I help you today?" "I'd like to close joint account number 458728891, I said, smiling, a smile he interpreted as kindness, but which in reality was pure, quiet vengeance. "Are you absolutely sure?" the manager asked, glancing at his screen. "This account holds a balance of $20,000. "I'm completely sure," I replied calmly. "Transfer every dollar into my personal account." My hand didn't tremble as I signed the papers. Watching that $20,000 move back into my own account filled me with a strange satisfaction, one I hadn't felt in years. And I was just getting started. My next stop was the mortgage loan office. During the year David had been unemployed, I had agreed to co-sign their loan. That meant if they failed to pay, the debt fell on me. But it also meant something else: I had legal rights to that house. Mrs. Johnson, the loan officer, Ms. Williams, greeted me politely. "What brings you in today?" "I'd like to review the mortgage contract where I appear as a co-signer," I said. "I need a full understanding of my rights and responsibilities." As she searched for the documents, my mind drifted back to the day I had signed those papers. Rebecca had cried in my arms. "Thank you, Mom. We'd be lost without you. You're our savior," she had whispered through tears of gratitude. David had promised me they would never miss a single payment. "Here are the documents," Ms. Williams said, bringing me back to the present as she placed a thick folder in front of me. "As a co-signer, you're responsible for the debt if the primary owners default. However, you also retain the right to reclaim the property if you believe they cannot meet their financial obligations." "Exactly," I said quietly as I reviewed the paperwork. "Is there an issue with the payments?" she asked, her voice professionally cautious. "I'm assessing the situation," I replied, slipping copies of the documents into my bag. "What would I need in order to exercise my rights?" "You would need evidence of financial instability or risk of default," she explained. "In your case, you covered 8 months of payments last year. That alone demonstrates a lack of financial security on their part." "Perfect." David had lost his job again just last week, information Rebecca had carelessly shared with me, never imagining the consequences. She thought she was quietly asking for help. What she had really done was place the final weapon in my hands. I left that office with a smile. My dear daughter had no idea what kind of storm she had just unleashed. My third stop was my personal lawyer, Mr. Anil Adams, a 70-year-old man who had been a close friend of my late husband. He had known my family for decades and had seen every sacrifice I had made for Rebecca. "Julieta," he greeted warmly. "What brings you here? It's unusual to see you in person these days." "I need your help with something very important," I said, taking a seat across from him. "I want to change my will." "Completely?" His eyebrows rose in surprise. "Did something happen with Rebecca?" So I told him everything. Every cruel word. Every moment of rejection. The cold, heartless way she had wished for my death, on her own birthday, no less. He listened without interrupting, his face growing darker with each detail. When I finished, he exhaled deeply. "Julieta, I am deeply sorry. After everything you've done for her, I never imagined she was capable of something like this." "Neither did I murmured. "But my decision is final. I want everything I own to go to a charitable organization. And I want a trust fund created for my grandchildren, one that Rebecca cannot touch until they turn 25. "That can be arranged," he nodded, already taking notes. "Do you also want to change the beneficiaries on your life insurance?" "Yes," I said firmly. "Anything with Rebecca's name on it, I want it removed. My daughter wants me dead, but when that day comes, she will not receive a single penny from me." For the next 2 hours, we reviewed every legal detail: my $100,000 life insurance policy, my savings, my apartment, my investments. Everything that once existed for Rebecca would now belong to the Orphans Foundation, where I had volunteered for years. Just as we were finishing, I spoke again. "There's one more thing. I want you to prepare the documents to reclaim the house where Rebecca lives. I'm a co-signer, and her husband just lost his job again." Anna leaned back slowly, understanding lighting his eyes. "Now I see your plan. Are you certain you want to go this far?" "I've never been more certain of anything in my life," I replied. "My daughter said her life would be easier if I disappeared. So I will disappear, but first, I will make sure she understands exactly what it means to live without me, and without everything I ever gave her." By the time I left his office, night had fallen. I walked through the familiar streets of my neighborhood feeling strangely reborn. For 45 years, my life had revolved around Rebecca. I had buried my dreams to fulfill hers. But that life was over. Back in my apartment, I poured myself a glass of wine, something I hadn't done in years. For the first time, I raised a toast not to my daughter, but to myself. And it felt liberating. Then I picked up my phone and dialed a number I had saved months ago but never had the courage to use, a travel agency that specialized in relocation for retirees. "Good evening. This is Julieta Johnson," I said when they answered. "I saw your program about living in Switzerland. I'd like full details." "Of course, Mrs. Johnson," the woman replied cheerfully. "Switzerland is a favorite destination among our clients. We offer everything from temporary stays to permanent residency. What would you like to know?" "Everything," I said without hesitation. "I want to know how a 72-year-old woman can begin a brand new life in Switzerland." After the call ended, I stood by the window, staring out at the city where I had spent my entire life. Soon, it would be nothing more than a memory. My daughter had asked for my disappearance as a birthday gift. And I was going to grant it to her. In the most unforgettable way possible. What Rebecca never realized was that her wish was about to turn into her worst nightmare. The following days became a whirlwind of emotions and secret preparations. Every morning I woke up carrying both pain and determination in my chest, pain for what had been broken, and determination to finally move forward. It felt as if I had been asleep for decades, living only for my daughter. Now, at last, I was waking up to live for myself. On Wednesday morning, my phone rang. Rebecca's name glowed on the screen. For a brief second, my heart raced with foolish hope. Maybe she had reflected. Maybe she was calling to apologize for the cruel words she had spoken. How naive I still was. "Mom," she said in the cold, detached tone she had adopted lately. "I need a favor." Not even a hello. Not even a "how are you?" Straight to business, just like I was her employee. "What do you need?" I asked, almost curious to see how far her nerve would go. "The twins have a presentation at school on Friday, and David and I have an important work dinner," she said. "You'll need to watch them that night." The irony was almost laughable. The same woman who had wished for my death as a birthday gift was now casually asking me to babysit as if nothing had happened, as if I were still a tool she could use whenever it suited her. "I can't," I replied simply. "What do you mean you can't?" she snapped, genuinely shocked. She clearly wasn't used to hearing that word from me. "I have other plans," I lied calmly, smiling even though she couldn't see it. "What plans could you possibly have?" she asked in that condescending tone that cut deeply. As if a 72-year-old woman had no right to a life of her own. "Plans that are none of your business," I answered evenly. "Find another sitter." "But Mom, I can't get anyone on such short notice," she protested. "And since when do you charge me to watch your own grandchildren?" There it was, the familiar emotional trap she had used on me for years. But this time, it didn't work. "Since the day you told me your greatest wish was for me to die," I said coldly. "If you want me gone from your life, I'm starting now." Silence filled the line. Then, finally, she let out a sarcastic laugh. "Seriously? You're going to punish me like a little child? I thought after a few days you'd drop the drama. This isn't drama, Rebecca. It's respect for your wish. You wanted me to disappear. So that's exactly what I'm doing. Fine, she snapped. If you want to be childish, that's on you. But don't come crying when you're lonely. And she hung up without saying goodbye. Perfect. Every conversation with her only confirmed that I was doing the right thing. That same afternoon, I went back to the bank to do something I never imagined I would, withdraw most of my savings in cash. I took out $30,000, placed it in a thick envelope, and locked it inside my personal safe. That money would fund my new life in Switzerland. Then I called the travel agency again and confirmed my plans. A flight to Zurich for the following Tuesday, with the option to extend my stay indefinitely. The cost was $5,000. I paid without hesitation. It was the most expensive, and the smartest, investment I had made in years. On Thursday morning, there was a knock at my door. It was my neighbor, Elvira, a 68-year-old woman who lived next door and had become a close friend over the past 5 years. Julieta, she said after settling into my living room with a cup of coffee. You look different. Something has changed. Elvira had seen everything. She had watched me cancel plans with her again and again to rush to Rebecca's side. She had seen the expensive groceries I carried to my daughter while I survived on canned soup to save money. So I told her everything, every cruel word Rebecca had spoken on her birthday, every decision I had made since then, every secret step toward my escape. My God, Julieta, Elvira whispered, her eyes filling with tears. I can't believe Rebecca would say something so heartless after everything you've done for her. The worst part, I said quietly, is that she said it like it was the most normal thing in the world. As if I were just a problem she needed to erase. And you're really going to Switzerland? She asked. Yes, I answered firmly. I've already bought the ticket. I'm leaving on Tuesday. She reached for my hands and squeezed them gently. You have my full support. What Rebecca did is unforgivable. There's something else, I said, lowering my voice. I'm going to need your help with something very important. And I told her everything, my entire plan. How I wanted Rebecca to believe, at least for a while, that I had truly died. Elvira would be the one to discover my empty apartment and the farewell letter. That's brilliant, Elvira murmured with a mischievous glint in her eyes. That ungrateful child is finally going to understand what it means to lose you. Will you help me? I asked softly. Of course, she replied without hesitation. It's exactly what Rebecca needs to wake up. That night, I began writing the most important letter of my life, the letter Rebecca would find and that would change everything forever. I wrote and rewrote every line, making sure each word carried the weight of truth. My dear Rebecca, the letter began. You asked me, as a birthday gift, to disappear from your life. I have decided to grant your wish. When you read this letter, I will already be far away, finally living the life I should have lived years ago instead of sacrificing it all for you. For hours, I continued writing. I documented every dollar I had spent on her. Every sacrifice. Every opportunity one had missed by always putting her needs before mine. But it wasn't a letter filled with hatred. It was a lesson. I wanted her to understand, clearly and painfully, what she had lost. With this letter, I wrote, you will also find copies of all the legal documents I have signed this week. My new will. The cancellation of the health insurance I paid for you. The notice that, as co-signer of your mortgage, I am exercising my legal rights due to David's job instability. And the termination of every financial benefit you received from me. By the time I finished, the letter had grown to 23 pages, page after page detailing exactly how her life was about to change now that I had disappeared, just as she had wished. Your life will be much easier without me, the letter concluded. But it will also be much more expensive. I hope it's worth it. On Friday night, as I packed my most important belongings into 2 suitcases, my phone rang. It was Rebecca. I didn't answer. She called 3 more times, each ring ignored. I had nothing left to say to her. The next day, Saturday, David appeared at my door. He looked tired, desperate, and on the verge of pleading. "Julieta," he said, his voice almost breaking. "Rebecca told me what happened. I know what she said was wrong, but please, don't do this to our family." "Do what?" I asked innocently. "Stop helping us. Just disappear from our lives like this. The kids need you. We need you." Interesting. When Rebecca wanted me gone, I was a nuisance. Now, when they realized everything I had done, suddenly I was indispensable. "David," I said calmly, "your wife was very clear with me. My presence in her life is a burden she no longer wants to bear. I'm simply respecting her wishes." "But Julieta, you know how she is when she gets angry." "She didn't mean it." "Oh, she didn't?" I recalled every word she had spoken, every cruel, cold wish she had made for my death on her birthday. David lowered his head, silent now, unable to defend the indefensible. "Please," he continued, almost whispering, "give me a chance to fix this. I'll talk to Rebecca. I'll make her understand she's wrong." "It's too late for that," I said, closing the door slowly. "Give my grandchildren a kiss for me." Sunday was my final day in the city. I spent the morning walking through the landmarks of my life, the hospital where I had worked for 40 years, the park where I had taken Rebecca as a child, the church where I had married her father. It was a quiet farewell to a life I had lived entirely for others. That night, sleep eluded me, not out of anxiety or regret, but out of a strange, exhilarating feeling I hadn't experienced in decades: anticipation. At 72, I was about to live the life I had always dreamed of but never dared to claim. At 5 a.m. on Monday, Elvira knocked at my door as planned. She brought fresh coffee and a knowing smile that seemed to fill me with energy. "Ready for your great escape?" she asked, winking. "More than ready," I replied, lifting my 2 suitcases. "Do you have the spare keys to my apartment?" I asked. "Here they are," she said, showing the set I had entrusted to her the night before. "And I also have the letter for Rebecca, along with all the legal documents you're leaving on her table." Everything had been meticulously planned. Elvira would wait until Wednesday to deliver the documents to Rebecca, pretending she had discovered my apartment empty and, out of concern, informed Rebecca that I was gone forever. "Remember," I said as we stepped into the cab, "act worried. Tell her I didn't answer the phone for 2 days, that you knocked and got no response, and that when you used the emergency keys, you found the apartment empty with the letter on her table. Don't worry, Julieta. I was a drama teacher for 30 years. This will be the performance of my life," Elvira replied with a mischievous smile. The cab arrived promptly at 6. As the driver loaded my suitcases, I took one last look at my apartment. 15 years of my life had been lived here, yet I felt no nostalgia. It was as if I was finally freeing myself from a prison I had built with my own hands. "To the airport?" the driver asked. "To the airport," I confirmed, feeling those words mark the official start of my new life. During the 40-minute ride, my mind wandered through everything I was leaving behind: my volunteer work at the hospital, the daily routines, the endless worries over Rebecca and her problems. But I also thought of the freedom waiting for me, the freedom to make my own decisions, spend my own money, live without the constant emotional weight of my daughter's demands. At the airport, my phone rang 3 times. Each call was from Rebecca. I ignored them all. Then a text appeared: "Mom, you're being ridiculous. The kids are asking about you. Call me." I deleted it without hesitation. How fascinating, it seemed that now that I was unavailable, suddenly they needed me. The flight to Zurich was long but peaceful. For the first time in years, no one knew where I was. No one could call, demand, or request anything from me. The freedom was intoxicating, a sensation I hadn't felt since before I became a mother. During the 12-hour journey, I wrote in my journal every detail of the last week, every emotion, every decision that had led me to this moment. I wanted to remember exactly what it felt like to break free from a toxic relationship, even when that relationship was with my own daughter. When I arrived in Zurich on Tuesday night, a representative from the travel agency was waiting for me, holding a sign with my name. He was young, kind, and spoke perfect English. "Mrs. Johnson," he greeted me warmly. "Welcome to Switzerland. I hope you're ready for a new adventure." "More than ready," I replied. For the first time in weeks, my smile was entirely genuine. Klaus took me to a beautifully furnished apartment in the heart of Zurich, which he had rented for me for 1 month while I decided whether I wanted to stay permanently. It was small but warm and inviting, with large windows overlooking a peaceful park and a partial view of the lake. "Here's everything you'll need," Klaus said, handing me a thick folder. "Restaurants, activities for people your age, German classes, social groups. I've also scheduled a meeting with a financial advisor for tomorrow afternoon in case you decide to stay long-term." That night, I slept better than I had in years. No phone to answer. No one asking for favors. No emergencies. No responsibilities, except taking care of myself. On Wednesday morning, I woke up early and went out to explore the city. I had breakfast at a charming cafe beside the lake. I bought fresh flowers for my temporary apartment. And for the first time in decades, I spent money on something completely unnecessary, a beautiful silk scarf that cost $100. I bought it simply because I liked it. No guilt. No calculating whether that money should instead go toward my daughter's needs. As I wandered through the streets of Zurich, my mind drifted back to how much I had spent on Rebecca in just the last 5 years. The mortgage payments during David's unemployment. The twins' braces. Endless gifts. Gas money for constant visits. Groceries I carried every time I came over. It had been at least $50,000. $50,000. Money that could have taken me around the world. Money that could have given me comfort, joy, and freedom long before now. Instead, I had given it to a daughter who saw my love as a burden and my presence as an inconvenience. At 2 p.m. Zurich time, I calculated that it would be 8 o'clock in the morning back home. Elvira would be getting ready to go to Rebecca's apartment, to deliver the letter that would change everything. I sat on a bench by the lake and waited calmly, watching the water ripple under the sunlight. I knew that within a few hours, my phone would start ringing in panic. Rebecca would finally understand what it truly meant to lose me. At exactly 5 p.m., my phone began to vibrate. Rebecca. I let it ring until it stopped. Seconds later, it rang again. Rebecca, again. This time, I answered. "Mom," she screamed the moment I picked up. "Where are you?" "Elvira came here with a letter from you. She said you disappeared." "What's going on?" "Hello, Rebecca," I said calmly, gazing at the blue Swiss lake in front of me. "Did you read the letter?" "Yes. I read it." "Are you crazy? How could you do this to us?" "Where are you?" "I'm exactly where I need to be," I replied softly. "Far away from you, just like you wanted." "But I didn't want this," she cried. "I didn't mean for you to actually leave. I was just angry. I didn't mean it." There it was, Rebecca's old tactic. Minimizing the damage. Turning cruelty into frustration. Trying to make me feel guilty for finally responding to her words. "You didn't mean it when you told me your greatest birthday wish was for me to die?" I asked quietly. "Because you sounded very convincing." "I was just overwhelmed," she said quickly. "David lost his job again. The kids are having problems at school. I'm stressed. I shouldn't have taken it out on you." "You're right," I said calmly. "You shouldn't have. But you did. And words can't be taken back once they've destroyed something." "Mom, please come back," she begged. "We need you. I need you." How interesting. Now she needed me. Now that she had read the letter. Now that she understood she had lost her financial safety net. Now that she knew her house was at risk. Now that she would have to pay for her own health insurance. Now that she would need a babysitter, and actually pay for one. "Do you need me?" I asked directly, "or do you need my money?" There was a long, heavy silence. "I need you," she finally whispered. But her voice lacked conviction. "For 45 years, Rebecca," I said steadily, "I lived for you. I sacrificed my dreams, my savings, my time, my youth, my health. And when I finally needed to believe you loved me and valued me, you told me you wished I was dead." Those words shattered something inside me that will never fully heal. "I'm sorry, Mom," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry." "Sorry isn't enough," I replied. "The damage is already done. But maybe, just maybe, it was the best thing you ever said to me. Because it finally opened my eyes. It made me understand that I had been living my life all wrong." "What do you mean?" she asked weakly. "I mean that for the first time in decades. I am living for myself. And it feels wonderful." "Where are you, Mom? Please tell me," she begged through tears. "The kids are asking for you. They don't understand why you haven't come to see them." It was almost ironic how now that I was gone, the grandchildren suddenly missed me. For years, my presence had been taken for granted. My sacrifices were expectations, not gratitude. "They'll be fine," I said softly, looking at the distant Swiss mountains. "Children are resilient. What they will learn is that actions have consequences, and that cruel words can destroy relationships forever." "But you can't just disappear like this," she cried. "What if something happens to you? What if you get sick? How will we even know?" Now she was suddenly worried about my health. How convenient. "Rebecca," I said quietly, "in the last 5 years I had 3 severe blood pressure crises that sent me to the hospital. Do you know how many times you visited me?" She was silent. "Not once," I continued. "You always had something more important to do. So don't come to me now pretending to worry about my well-being." "That's not true," she weakly protested. "It is true," I said steadily. "The first time I was hospitalized, I called you from the emergency room. You told me you couldn't come because you had a hair appointment. The second time was David's birthday, and you were celebrating. The third time, you simply didn't answer the phone." The silence on the other end confirmed that she remembered every single occasion perfectly. I thought it wasn't serious," she murmured. "Of course," I replied. "Because my health was never a priority for you. But my checks always were." "It's not about the money," she screamed. "Rebecca," I asked calmly, "do you miss me, or do you miss having someone available 24/7 to solve all your problems?" I hung up before she could respond. The phone rang again immediately, but this time I turned it off completely. I needed peace, to savor the first night of freedom I had earned. That evening, I went out to dinner alone at an elegant lakeside restaurant. I ordered the most expensive dish on the menu, salmon with caviar, accompanied by a full bottle of French wine. It had been years since I had allowed myself such indulgence, always thinking the money might be better spent on Rebecca. The next day, Thursday, I turned on my phone to find 47 missed calls and 23 text messages, all from Rebecca and David. The tone shifted gradually from concern to panic. "Please, Mom, answer," one read. "We're so worried," said another. "If you don't answer, we're calling the police," warned a later message. "Your joint account has been cancelled. How will we pay for emergencies?" It was fascinating to watch concern for my well-being transform into sheer panic over financial consequences. I decided to reply to just one message: "I'm fine. I'm exactly where I need to be. Don't look for me." The response came in less than 5 minutes: "You don't understand what you're doing. You're going to ruin us." The mortgage lawyer called. "He says you can take our house." There it was. The truth. She wasn't worried about me, she was worried about losing everything she had taken for granted. "Now you understand what it's worth to have me in your life," I replied. "Too bad you realized it too late." That afternoon, I met with a Swiss financial advisor, an older, dignified man named Hermeyer. He helped me understand all my options for permanent residency in Switzerland. With your current savings and your American pension, he explained, you can live comfortably here for the rest of your life. Switzerland offers excellent healthcare programs for retired foreigners, and the quality of life is exceptional. For the first time in decades, I could speak openly about my finances, without worrying about saving every penny for Rebecca's emergencies. It was liberating to plan my life according to my own needs, my own dreams, my own desires. You can also invest part of your savings in the Swiss economy, Hermeyer continued. The returns are stable and secure. In 5 years, you could double your assets with wise investments. Double my assets. How many times had I had that opportunity? How often had I sacrificed my future to fund my daughter's whims? And you're not alone, he added. Many clients come here after complicated family situations. Older people who decided to prioritize their happiness after toxic relationships. You'll find a community here. The thought comforted me deeply. I wasn't the only mother who had been manipulated, used, and discarded. There were others like me, people choosing freedom over demands. On Friday morning, I joined a hiking group for retirees. 8 women and 4 men, all between 60 and 75, were seeking adventure and new experiences. During the bus ride to the mountains, I spoke with a woman named Ingrid, a 71-year-old German who had moved to Switzerland 2 years ago. What brought you here? She asked as we admired the scenery. A daughter who told me her greatest birthday wish was for me to die, I answered without hesitation. No sugarcoating. No excuses. Ingrid's eyes widened. Seriously? Completely. After financing her house, practically raising her children, sacrificing my retirement, she said my presence was unbearable. A burden. My words stunned her. And, what did you do? I disappeared from her life, I said simply. And here I am. Ingrid smiled, admiration shining in her eyes. You are brave. It took me 5 years to walk away from my own toxic family. My adult children treated me like an ATM. When I set boundaries, they accused me of being selfish and threatened to cut me off from my grandchildren. The first few months were hard. Ingrid confessed as we walked through a medieval town. Guilt ate me up, she admitted. I thought maybe I was really selfish, that a good mother should always sacrifice for her children. And what changed your perspective? I asked. I realized that my children never wondered if I was happy, if I had enough money for my own needs, or if my constant sacrifices were hurting me. They only cared about what I could give them. That's not love, Julieta. That's exploitation. Her words resonated deeply. For decades, I had confused emotional manipulation with filial love, constant demands with genuine need. That night in my apartment, I turned on my phone for the first time in several days. I had 62 missed calls and 47 text messages. Most were from Rebecca and David, but some came from unknown numbers. Reading the texts chronologically, I observed my daughter's panic unfold. The first messages were still emotional. Please, Mom, please come back. We need you. The kids are crying for you. Gradually, they became financial. The bank called us for a meeting on Friday. They say that as the co-signer, you have the right to reclaim the house. They can't take our house away for a misunderstanding. By the 5th day, the messages had turned aggressive. This is ridiculous, Mom. You're ruining our lives over a tantrum. Act like an adult and come back. And finally, desperate, I called all the hospitals, the police, your friends. No one knows where you are. If something happens to you, it's going to be my fault. Please just tell me you're okay. It was fascinating to see that at no point did Rebecca genuinely apologize for wishing me dead. At no point did she acknowledge the cruelty of her words or express real remorse. Everything revolved around the consequences of my absence. I replied with one last message: I am perfectly fine and happier than I have been in years. What you are experiencing now are the natural consequences of your actions. I hope this helps you understand the value of the people you love before it's too late with others in your life. The response came immediately, "Please, Mom, we can fix this. I promise I'll never say horrible things again. Just come back." I sent my final response, "Empty promises don't mend broken hearts. Rebecca, the words you said revealed what you really think of me. You can't take that truth back with desperate promises." After sending the message, I blocked her number, all numbers associated with David, and the unknown numbers that had been calling me. It was time to close that chapter for good. On Monday morning, I met again with Herr Meyer to sign the papers allowing me to reside permanently in Switzerland. I also made arrangements to permanently transfer my American pension and begin selling my apartment in my hometown. "Are you sure you want to make this permanent?" Herr asked. "It's a very big decision." "I have never been more sure of anything in my life," I replied, signing each document firmly. For the first time in decades, I was making decisions based on my own happiness, not the demands of others. That afternoon, Elvira, my dear neighbor and accomplice, called, her voice excited. "Julieta, you have to hear this," she said. "Rebecca came to my apartment yesterday, crying hysterically. She begged me to tell you to come back, that it had been a terrible misunderstanding." "And what did you tell her?" I asked. "I told her the truth," Elvira replied, "that what she said to you was unforgivable, and if I were you, I would have disappeared forever too. You should have seen her face when she realized even her neighbors knew how cruel she'd been." "Did she mention the financial problems?" I asked. "Oh yes. She told me without your help, they can't pay the mortgage, the bank is pressuring them, David can't find a stable job, and the kids need school things they can't afford. Basically, she realized everything you did for them when she lost it." Exactly as I expected. She didn't miss me as a person. She missed my function as a financial provider and problem solver. "Elvira," I said, "when someone asks about me, especially Rebecca, I want you to tell them I'm dead to them. Because in a sense, it's true. The Julieta who constantly sacrificed herself for an ungrateful daughter really died on her birthday." "I understand perfectly," Elvira replied. "And you know what? I think it's the best death you could have chosen." 3 weeks after my arrival in Switzerland, my new life had taken shape in ways I never imagined. I enrolled in German classes 3 times a week, started a watercolor painting course on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and joined a book club for expats on Sundays. For the first time in decades, my calendar was full of activities I had chosen, bringing pleasure and personal growth. But the most surprising part was the money. Without Rebecca's constant financial demands, my savings not only remained stable, they were growing. The investments I had made with Herr Meyer were already showing positive returns, and for the first time, I could plan my financial future based solely on my own needs. That Thursday morning, while having breakfast at my favorite lakeside cafe, I received a call from an international number I didn't recognize. I hesitated but answered. "Mrs. Julieta Johnson?" a female voice with an American accent asked. "Yes, this is she," I replied. "Who's calling?" I asked. "My name is Sarah Williams. I'm a social worker in the Family Services Department in your hometown. We received a complaint about your well-being." My blood ran cold. "A complaint? What kind?" I asked. "Your daughter, Rebecca Johnson, filed a complaint alleging that you may be suffering from dementia or cognitive decline, and that you've made financial and life decisions that put you at risk. According to her, you disappeared suddenly and are living in precarious conditions abroad." I couldn't believe it. Rebecca had gone to the extreme, inventing a mental illness to invalidate my decisions and force my return. "Miss Williams," I said firmly, "I do not suffer from dementia or cognitive decline. I am living in Switzerland by my own choice, in a comfortable apartment with excellent medical care and in perfect mental health. My daughter's allegations are completely false. I understand your position, Mrs. Johnson, but we need to verify your well-being. Would it be possible to coordinate a medical and psychological evaluation through the American consulate in Switzerland?" "Of course," I replied without hesitation. I am willing to undergo any evaluation that demonstrates I am in perfect mental health and that my decisions have been made with complete lucidity. After coordinating the details, I hung up, feeling a mix of rage and disbelief. Rebecca had crossed a line. Not only had she wished me dead, she was now trying to destroy my credibility to regain control over my money and my life. I immediately called my lawyer, Anil, back in my hometown. Julieta, he greeted me with concern, I'm glad to hear your voice. I've had a very interesting week with your daughter. I bet you have. I just spoke with social services. Rebecca is accusing me of having dementia. That's not all, Anil sighed. She also hired another lawyer to challenge all the legal changes you made before you left. She claims you weren't in your right mind when you signed them. Can she do that? She can try, but she has no solid legal grounds. I have recordings of all our conversations where you clearly demonstrate total lucidity. Furthermore, the fact that you meticulously planned your departure and are living independently in Switzerland contradicts any allegations of cognitive decline. What else is she doing? I asked. She has tried to access your bank accounts, claiming concern for your well-being. She also wanted to stop the process of reclaiming the house, but since everything is legally backed, and she herself signed documents acknowledging David lost his job again, she has no valid arguments. It was incredible how far Rebecca was willing to go to regain the financial benefits she had lost. Anil, I want you to prepare a defamation lawsuit against my daughter. Her false allegations about my mental state could affect my reputation and legal rights. It would be my pleasure, he replied with satisfaction. After seeing how she has treated you, I think it's time she faced the legal consequences of her actions. 2 days later, I went to the American consulate in Zurich for the medical and psychological evaluations. The doctor, an older, experienced man, immediately understood the situation. Mrs. Johnson, he told me after an exhaustive 3-hour evaluation, not only are you in perfect mental health, but the decisions you've made demonstrate admirable lucidity and courage. Your daughter is clearly trying to manipulate the legal system to recover financial benefits. That will be officially documented. Absolutely. I'll send a detailed report to social services explaining that her allegations are unfounded and that you are living an independent, healthy life in Switzerland. That same afternoon, I received a call from the social worker. Mrs. Johnson, we received the medical report from the consulate. It's clear your daughter's allegations are baseless. We are closing the case and notifying Rebecca that her complaints were unfounded. Thank you, I replied. Will this be in some kind of record? Yes, she said. It will be documented that she filed a false complaint about a family member's well-being, which could have legal implications if it happens again. Perfect. Rebecca had not only failed in her attempt to invalidate my decisions, but now she had an official record of filing false complaints. That night, I did something I had been putting off. I wrote an open letter detailing my entire experience, not for Rebecca, but for other mothers who might be living under similar manipulation and emotional abuse from adult children. I wrote for 4 hours, documenting every sacrifice, every manipulation I suffered, and every step I had taken to reclaim my dignity and life. It became a 20-page letter titled When a Mother's Love Becomes Self-Destruction, My Story of Liberation at 72. I sent it to an online blog specializing in stories of older women who had courageously changed their lives. A week later, I received an enthusiastic response from the editor. Julieta, she wrote, your story is powerful and inspiring. We've received hundreds of comments from women who completely identify with your experience. Would you be willing to participate in a video interview for our YouTube channel? I accepted immediately. It was time to use my experience to help other women trapped in toxic family dynamics. The interview was published 2 weeks later and quickly went viral. Thousands of women shared similar stories of adult children who emotionally manipulated and financially exploited them. The comments were full of recognition and pain. My 40-year-old son lives in my house, doesn't pay rent, and yells at me when I ask him to find a job, one woman wrote. My daughter only calls when she needs money for vacations, but never has time to visit when I'm sick, another shared. I thought I was the only mother who felt used by her own children, a third confessed. But the most impactful message came a week later, from an email I immediately recognized. It was David, my former son-in-law. Julieta, I saw your interview on YouTube. I want you to know I completely agree with you. What Rebecca said to you was unforgivable, and the way she treated you for years is unacceptable. I've witnessed how she manipulates and uses you, but I never had the courage to confront her because we were so dependent on your financial help. The kids miss you a lot. They don't understand why you don't come to see them anymore. Rebecca told them you're sick, but they deserve to know the truth when they are older. The email ended with these words. I know it's probably too late to apologize, but I want you to know that at least one person in this family admits how badly we treated you and how much you sacrificed for us. I hope you are happy in your new life. I read it 3 times before replying. At last, I wrote back. David, I appreciate your honesty, but late apologies don't erase the damage. I truly hope this experience makes you a better husband and father, and that you teach your children to value the people who love them before it's too late. It was the first time anyone in my family had openly admitted the abuse I had endured. It didn't change my decision to stay away, but it gave me a sense of validation I had needed for years. My life in Switzerland was growing in ways I had never imagined. I had real friends who cared about me for who I was, not for what I could give. I rediscovered old hobbies and new passions. I had peace of mind, financial security, and most of all, I had my dignity back. 6 months after I arrived, on a beautiful spring morning, I received a call that changed everything again. It was Alvara, my dear neighbor and quiet supporter. Julieta, she said excitedly, you won't believe this. Rebecca lost the house. My heart froze for a moment. No matter what had happened, I still worried about my grandchildren. What happened? I asked. The bank foreclosed last week. David couldn't keep a stable job, they fell behind on payments, and since you're the co-signer and used your legal rights, the bank went ahead with it. Rebecca came to me yesterday in tears. The children are fine, they moved to a small apartment across town. David finally found factory work. It pays less, but it's steady. Rebecca had to go back to work too. The emotions inside me were strange and mixed. I didn't feel happy about their suffering, but I did feel a quiet sense of justice. For the first time, they were facing the consequences of their choices without someone rescuing them. There's one more thing, Alvara added. Rebecca asked if I knew how to reach you. She says she truly wants to apologize now and finally understands what she lost. And what did you tell her? I asked. I told her that some wounds run too deep, and some words can never be taken back. I also told her that you're doing well in your new life, and that it's best for both of you if she doesn't contact you. Alvara was right. In those 6 months, I had built a peace I wasn't willing to risk for empty promises from a daughter who only valued me when she needed something. That same afternoon, my lawyer, Anil, called me. Julieta, I have some good news, he said. Rebecca's house has been sold by the bank. Since you were the co-signer, you're entitled to recover your original $150,000 plus interest. How much in total? I asked. $185,000. The transfer is already approved. It will reach your Swiss account next week. I was stunned. Not only had I recovered what I once thought was lost forever, but I had gained another $5,000, money that would have disappeared if I had continued being the endlessly sacrificing mother. There's more, Anil said. Your apartment in your hometown has also sold. After all expenses, you'll receive $95,000. In total, almost $300,000 had returned to me, money I had once written off completely. With my savings and smart investments in Switzerland, my net worth now passed $500,000. At 72, I was richer than I had ever been in my life. That evening, I went to my favorite lakeside restaurant. I ordered French champagne and raised a toast to the woman who had dared to begin again when everything seemed lost. As I sat there, I thought about the journey, from a broken, humiliated mother crushed by the cruelty of her own daughter, to an independent, financially secure woman surrounded by genuine friends and living a life she had once only dreamed of. The next day, I made a decision I had been thinking about for weeks. I would write a book. Not just my story, but a guide for older women trapped in toxic family relationships. I contacted a Swiss publishing house that focused on self-help and personal growth. The editor, a woman named Brigitte, showed immediate interest. "Julieta," she said, "your story touches a reality millions of women live with but rarely talk about. Emotional abuse by adult children is a silent epidemic." For the next 3 months, I wrote When Love Hurts, Freeing Yourself from Family Emotional Abuse After 70. The book shared my journey along with practical advice on recognizing manipulation, setting healthy boundaries, and choosing self-worth. 8 months after publication, it became a bestseller across several European countries. The letters from readers were overwhelming. Women from all over the world wrote to me. "I finally understand that I am not a bad mother for refusing to support my 35-year-old son's irresponsibility," wrote Maria from Spain. "Your story taught me that real love does not require self-destruction," wrote Carmen from Mexico. "After reading your book, I sold my big house and moved into a small apartment I can afford on my own, without depending on my children. For the first time in years, I could sleep peacefully." I received messages from readers like Rosa from Argentina who shared similar feelings, but the letter that touched me the most came a year after my book was published. It was from a young mother named Andrea. "Mrs. Johnson," she wrote, "I'm 30 years old and have a 65-year-old mother who has given her entire life for me and my siblings. After reading your book, I realized we'd been treating her the same way Rebecca treated you. Your story opened my eyes and made me see that I was repeating a toxic pattern that could have ruined my relationship with my mother forever. Yesterday, I called her and apologized for taking her for granted all these years. I told her I want to support her in fulfilling her own dreams, instead of always expecting her to be available for mine. Thank you for helping me understand this before it was too late." Her words made me cry with joy. I realized that my pain had not been in vain. It was helping other families avoid the same destruction. 2 years after I moved to Switzerland, I received a letter in the mail. The handwriting looked familiar, but I didn't recognize it right away. When I opened it, my heart skipped a beat. It was from my grandchildren, now 12 years old. "Dear Grandma Julieta," they wrote in their sweet, childlike handwriting, "Dad told us the truth about why you left. He said Mom said some very hurtful things to you, which is why you decided to start a new life far away. We want you to know we miss you a lot and we understand why you left. We are proud of you for being so brave. When we are older, we would love to visit you in Switzerland if you want us to. We love you, Grandma." The letter was signed by both twins and included drawings of me living happily in the Swiss mountains. I cried for an hour, not from sadness, but from knowing that preserving my dignity had been the right choice, even if it meant being apart from the people I loved. I decided to write back. "My dearest grandchildren, your words are the most beautiful gift I have received in years. I love you deeply, and I always will, no matter the distance. When you are older and can make your own choices, the doors to my heart and my home will always be open for you. Until then, know that your grandma is living a full and happy life, surrounded by beauty and peace. Treasure the love you feel, but also remember this lesson: words have the power to build or destroy, and relationships thrive on mutual respect, not one-sided sacrifice. I love you with all my heart." Today, 3 years after that terrible birthday that changed my life forever, I sit on my balcony in Zurich, looking at the mountains as I write the final lines of my story. I am 75 years old, with over $600,000 in assets, a best-selling book titled Dear Friends from All Over the World, and a peace of mind I never thought I would experience again. Rebecca had asked for a birthday gift, the chance to erase me from her life. I gave her that wish in the most spectacular way. What she never anticipated was that by losing me, she didn't just lose a mother who loved her unconditionally, she lost the person who had kept her financial world stable for decades. My disappearance was my gift to her. My new life was my gift to me. And it was worth every tear, every sacrifice, and every painful moment that brought me here. Sometimes, the only way to save yourself is to lose yourself completely, and be reborn as the person you were always meant to be. Did you enjoy my story? Which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you liked this story, you can support me with a super thanks so I can continue sharing more stories like this. Thank you for your sweet support. I look forward to reading your comments. On the screen, you'll see 2 more life stories I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next story. With love and respect.